Hi, today on the workbench we have a NuTone IMA4406, and it's kind of in pieces at the moment because partway through beginning to work on this I decided we should make a video about it. So, backstory on this. This unit was made probably in 2003 or 2004. So it's an early IMA4406. It was sent in by a customer named Renee. Renee lives in Maryland. This set has had problems for a long period of time. It is moderately unclear. Could be that it has had problems anywhere for between 3 weeks and possibly 5 years. I'm betting more on the 5-year thing. I just wanted to go over some things because there are some issues or challenges with a repair like this, and I thought I would show what we find sometimes when people send us their sets. So we're going to sort of dissect it from the back to the front. So beginning with, and I've got all the boards just sort of sitting in place at the moment. Nothing's really fastened down, and you'll find out why that's the case in a little bit. So this unit on the back of the master station, this is the power module. The power module contains the primary power supply, the amplifier, and the preamp. Power module is built around this big aluminum heatsink, which again you'll see in the middle, and this sheet metal bracket that holds it to the back of the faceplate. To insulate this and to provide information, there's this clear plastic sheet that goes over the back of it, and if you look really carefully you can see it's kind of turned brown, and it's turned brown from the heat. And so as an example, here is a replacement one that's upside down and it's backwards. It goes this way. Anyway, it goes like that. It's hard to see when the writing's backwards. Anyway, this is a brand new replacement one that's going to end up on Renee's intercom when I'm done fixing it. But as you can see, it's totally clear because this is how they are when they were new. It's a little dusty because it's been on the shelf for a long time, but that's all right. So this has turned brown because of the heat, primarily in the primary power supply section of the power module. But if you look really carefully, you'll see it's really dark here, and it gradually becomes a little bit lighter as it goes to the right. And up here in the far away corners, it's still kind of clear, a little bit brown, but not too bad. I have actually had these come in on sets with problems where this sheet is entirely black. It's black enough that if you were going to take it outside and stare at a solar eclipse and not want to get blinded by looking at the sun, you could probably use it. That's how black they can get. So that is a problem. So this indicates a fairly serious long-term problem with the 4406, because this doesn't happen overnight. This takes years of time for this to turn brown like this. So that's one thing. Here's the sheet metal bracket that holds it to the back of the faceplate. I already have unscrewed that from the heatsink to make this go faster. Here's our big aluminum heatsink, primary power supply, amplifier, preamp down here. One of the things that happens, and I've done other videos about that, is the primary power supply, because of the way it was designed, there are components that over time overheat, and eventually they fail. And usually when they fail, you have one of the two most common symptoms with IMA4406s, which is you have a system that for all intents and purposes seems to operate correctly, but you have no audio of any kind whatsoever, or you have a system that gets locked into the IU mode, which we have a video about, and I'll put a pop-up up here. All of these videos are in the IM and IMA4406 playlist, so you can find them all if you want to. This is a problem. This is where the primary heat that discolored the plastic originates from. Before we start a repair on any unit, the very first thing I do is I set it up on the workbench, I hook it up to power, I hook up a couple speakers to it, turn it on to see what we really have and what direction things are going to go in. When I turned this one on, there was an ever-present background hum on the speaker, or on all the speakers actually, and that indicates a fairly serious problem because 4406s are a silent design, which means that if you don't have the radio on and you're not using the intercom or ringing the doorbell, it should be completely silent, no sound at all whatsoever. So this one has a background hum, and I'm going to show you why. In this close-up view, we're looking at the 7 primary power supply capacitors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7's way over here where it's hard to see. This one's good, this one's good, this one's good, This one's probably okay still. This one and this one, if you look really carefully and compare it to the other four, this one is tented up, which means the center of the end of the cap has been pushed up in the center, as has this one. This one's probably a little worse than that one. These two have failed, and they have failed enough that the internal pressure inside the capacitor has pushed up the end of the cap, which they have these X marks on them. They vented the cap. It's pushed it up, allowed it to deform, to release the internal pressure that you get when you have failed capacitors. This is where the hum comes from, because this is all very bad. This is also related to the primary power supply that's been overheating probably for years. So this will get a complete power module rebuild, and that will most likely take care of all the problems. Now, to make sure that when I was doing my initial testing that we were on the right track, what I do is I remove the original power module and I put in place of it my shop power module, which I don't have out right now, so it's not really that important. That bypasses any problems with this, and that way you can assess what's going on with the rest of the unit. When I did that, of course, the background hum was gone. The set sort of came back to life, not completely, but it was better. And what I found in that mode of testing was I could set the clock, I could program the radio stations, I could play the radio. Didn't sound great, but I could play the radio. And the intercom functions, which are what happens when you push the buttons, was working, but the intercom audio transmission, the talking from station to station and so forth, was somewhat haphazard. What that led me to think, based on experience, because I've seen that a million times before, is this is the audio tuner audio board. The audio intercom relays were what I like to describe as crunchy, because when they would operate, they make these weird sort of crunchy sounds. And what most likely had happened was the system was way out of adjustment for a long period of time, and also dealing with the heat problem, most likely. It overloads the contacts in the relays, because the relays are really small. They're about the size of 1.5 sugar cubes. They're little tiny relays, and they have little tiny contacts inside of them, and they're only designed to handle so much power. And if you have your system adjustments all jacked up, is a technical term for it, it over time degrades the contacts, and then they don't make good closures and things don't work right. So there was all of that. This board actually has already been repaired, because I wanted to make sure that I was on the right track before I called and talked to Renee about all this. And so I did the normal rebuild on this board and put it all back together with my power module, and it all worked fine. So that's good. That was taken care of. The other problem, and this I'll try to stand this up and show you. So here's the front of the unit, and you've got all these push buttons. You've got these, the input selector, the intercom buttons, the memory buttons, and the buttons for the CD player. And behind the door, there's a reset button, and there's buttons for memory set and time. So behind each button is a little tactile switch. Tactile switches are little tiny miniature switches. They look something like that. The majority of these switches did not work correctly. You would have to push them and wiggle them and get them just right and push them really hard. And if you were really, really lucky, it might work. And then the next time you push it, it didn't want to go. I would say roughly, in not having made a list and documenting it all and all like that, probably 80% of the buttons did not work reliably. Because what you want is, when you walk up to it to do something, when you push FM, you expect the FM to turn on. You don't expect to have to stand there and push it 16 times and wiggle your finger just right to try to get it to turn on. So that was a problem. Tactile switches on 4406s are not typically a problem. On 3303s, they're more of a problem, and what's odd about that is they use exactly the same kind of switch in pretty much exactly the same kind of layout design. So why is it more common in 3303s and not 4406s? I don't have any idea. It should all be the same, but they're not. So this is the main board, which I'm going to take out carefully. And you might be able to see, so this is the what would be referred to as the microprocessor board, because that's the microprocessor right there. Not very big, but it's pretty good. So on this board, all of the tactile switches, which you can see are now all white, here, 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 and here, have all been replaced already. I did that yesterday because I had some time to work on this a little bit. So that's all been done. The other thing on this set in particular is these controls. This is the intercom volume control, system volume, bass, treble, and room control switches. These all need to be cleaned, which we always do anyway, so there's that. But this board has been, the switches replaced, and it should work fine now. So there's that. So this is the reason coming up that I decided to actually make this video. One of the problems with sets like this, and I discovered this immediately when I went to remove the original power module from the back of the set, is that because this set has been exposed to a lot of heat for a really long period of time, the plastics on the back of the faceplate have been degraded to a large degree. And to sort of show you that, faceplates like this, and people don't really know this because why would you? There's all these plastic posts which are called standoffs. They're like here, 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 this one, one here, that one, two here, this one, these two, big ones here, over here, down across the bottom, big ones, big ones, big ones, big ones. Standoffs are all places that screws go into, because when you put the board back in the set like this, set it in place, you got to put all the screws back in. That's what holds it in place, because you don't want it flopping around, because when you go to push a button on the front, it has to push the button, not push the board back and forth. And this particular board, if we count it, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 screws. So there's 20 little tiny screws that hold this board in place. There's a little less on the audio board, and there are 6 on the power module. The power module screws are big because it's heavy. So the problem with this faceplate is, and as an example, this is part of the faceplate. This is one of the standoffs, and this one, I believe, was right here. Sits just like that. Can you see that? It's right there. Maybe you can. I'll zoom in a minute. So there's that one, and then there was another one, that's this one, that was right here, I think. Maybe it goes this way, like that. When I unscrewed the big screws that hold the power module in place, like that, just unscrewing the screws snapped off the standoffs, because the plastic is so brittle, there's no life left in it at all, that it just cracks and breaks. And if you look really carefully, and I'm going to zoom in a second. Well, before we look carefully, let's look at this. So this is the CD player. It actually sits like this, the board. So this is the CD player, which needed some repair also because it had some bad capacitors on the control board. So when I went to remove this, this is held in place with 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. This screw came out here. These 3 screws, when I tried to loosen them, the standoffs here, here, and here snapped off and broke, and they're still on the back of the board. That's how brittle the plastic is. And these are little tiny screws, and the plastic just shattered when I tried to take the screws out. And as you can see, maybe I can wiggle it with my finger and it's still loose. So there's that. And I'm going to lift the CD player out here if I can. See, now you saw that in real time. I was going to take this one off. This has a little landing cap on it that the board sits on. That's the one where the screw came out. And to get it out, you kind of have to twist it to release it and pull it up. And when I did that, it broke the standoff off right there. You can see where it's broken because out here on the outside it's yellowed and on the inside it's still closer to white. It just snapped off of my fingers. If we look carefully, and I'm going to zoom in, let me zoom in and that way you can see all the carnage. Here's the CD player assembly. I'm going to take this out carefully put it aside over here. And so here are the 4 standoffs that the screws that hold the CD board in place are. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the one that broke off when I tried to remove it so I could take the CD player out. This one, and this one cracked off when I tried to unscrew the board the very first time. And if you look carefully, if you watch this one right here where my thumb is, here's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to try to do this and be fair about it. If I go like this, I just snapped it off way down here at the bottom. This one, let's see if we can do it with a little finger here. Okay, I got pretty good sized fingers, but come on, it's a pinky finger. How strong can it possibly be? There's this one right here. That one's still intact, but let me show you what happens sometimes when you have a set like this. So I'm going to take a proper size screw. That's the screw size that goes in that standoff right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw it in. And I'm only using 2 fingers, and I'm not turning it any harder than I need to wind it down, and you just saw it snap off. That's what happens. So I'm going to take it out because it's still threaded a little bit. And let's see if we can find another one to do. How about this one right here? I think you can see that pretty well. Let's put the screw in it and see what happens. Halfway in, starting to snug it up. Have to tighten it down because it's got to hold the board in place. There you go. There's no life left in the plastic at all whatsoever. So we're going to try one more. We're going to do this one. So right here, these are the 2 standoffs that hold the power module bracket to the back of the set. You can see this one's already broken off. You can see it's all slanty and it's white on the inside. That one still looks like it's intact because it is. So we're going to take a power module screw, which is a bigger screw like that, and we're going to carefully thread it in here. Now we might get lucky and it might stay, or on the other hand, it might completely shatter into pieces as it just did. Now you see what it looks like. Okay, and this is not AI or anything like that. I'm not wrenching on it with a power screwdriver or anything. It's just a regular Phillips screwdriver tightening it up as you would normally do for any kind of screw. So that's what happens when you have an intercom system that's been running hot for years and years and years. The heat bakes the life out of the plastic. That's the explanation of what this set is all about. The question at this point is, what are we going to do about it? Well, what we're going to do about it is we're going to fix it. I've already replaced the tactile switches on the microprocessor board. I've already dealt with the problems on the audio board. The power module needs to be rebuilt. Surprisingly enough, with all of these things going on, and I did verify this for the customer, the CD player actually still plays. I actually played CDs on it yesterday, day before yesterday. I played 4 CDs over and over and over again, and it played just fine. And the doorbell module works, the chime module. So that's all good. So what we're going to do is, this faceplate is useless because it's just too broken. Nothing will ever stay in place. It's always going to break, and it's always going to be a problem. So I looked and looked and looked through, and plus, it's not in the best of shape. It's got a lot of wall paint and caulking on it and all that kind of stuff, which is not uncommon because houses get painted and painters aren't careful, and don't get me started on painters. And if you're a painter, I'm sorry, but that's just the way I see it, And even on this, we snapped the door off. Oh, it didn't break. I expected it to break. Nope, that one didn't break either. Anyway, what we're going to do is, I looked and looked and looked through all of the IMA4406 faceplates that I have, and this one is moderately yellowed. And they do tend to yellow every now and then. You do see one that's really, really, really nice, but I didn't have any white ones that were really, really, really nice. Most of them are this yellowed or worse. So not the best option for most people. But I do have an IMA4406 black faceplate, which I personally like the black faceplates. They're very different. They provide a nice contrast in people's houses. If you have the right kind of house, you can do that, especially if you have a kitchen where you have like black appliances and things like that. It kind of all ties in. And luckily, or fortunately, Renee thought black faceplate would be okay too. So we're going to finish rebuilding all the boards and put it all back together on a replacement black faceplate and send back Renee a working 4406 master station. So I hope you found this interesting, and perhaps for someone it will be helpful. If it is, give it a thumbs up, because that helps us just a little bit. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell, and when you click on the bell, click on it to receive all notifications. And every time we post a new video, you get a notification and you can watch it. All right, it's all done.